manner who?
The watchers also changed the order of their nature, whom the Lord cursed at the flood, on whose account he made the earth without inhabitants and fruitless.
Read the first part of that verse in that chapter 4, I believe it is.
4 and 1. These things I say unto you, my children, for I have read in the writing of Enoch.
In the writings of who?
Enoch.
Right.
That ye yourselves also shall depart from the Lord, walking according to all the lawlessness of the Gentiles. And ye shall do according to all the wickedness of Sodom. And the Lord shall bring captivity upon you. Go on up.
You can see that's about the end of it. So what we're looking for is the
There you
watchers.
shall serve your enemies.
So we see here what the Lord is saying. Shalom, y'all. So we see here, y'all, what the Lord is saying. They left their nature. They're able to turn away from it. Give me that, y'all write down that Isaiah 14 as well. That Luke 10 talks about Satan falling from heaven. But I want to get right to the heart of the matter because we're kind of running out of time. And you see this almost in Jasher chapter 2. Isaiah 14, 1 through 7, they talk Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12, talk about Lucifer being fallen from heaven. Y'all have to understand what kingdom was Lucifer a priest over. Was it during Adam and Eve's time? Because iniquity was already found in him. He was not created evil. According to Ezekiel 1:27, it says he was an anointed cherub. He was anointed over, he was up high. There's only a few anointed cherubs. He had a breastplate on him. Until iniquity was found in him. So he was never created evil, eternal. So he was already wicked, but because he's supernatural, he couldn't die. His flesh couldn't corrupt. His punishment is yet to come. You read in Genesis 3, it says, dust shall be his meat, but that is revealed in Isaiah 65, verse 22. It says, then shall the dust be the serpent's meat, after Christ returns to the earth. So Satan ain't even had his eternal curse put on him yet. Judgment don't happen until Isaiah 65. For Satan, because it's an eternal punishment. Let's get it, y'all. Where we at?
Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12.
Yeah, you have to say.
And I want Jubilees. Come on, y'all. And I want Jubilees, 5th chapter. Who got Jubilees 5? Give me them 2.
Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer,
right?
son of the morning?
Right.
How art thou cut down to the ground,
right?
Which didst weaken the nation?
Weakens the nation, yep.
Weaken the nation. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven.
Where you going to ascend to?
Into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms,
right?
That made the world as the wilderness?
Has that happened yet? Is the world a wilderness? Either you're saying that this was the man in control of Noah's flood, or this Lucifer was in control of what Jeremiah 4:23 talks about, when it talks about that other world, or 2 Peter 3:8, when it says those heavens were wiped away. But the heavens that we are under now is the same heavens that Noah was under. and Adam was under. But it says there was a heaven previous to that one that was destroyed. Just like Isaiah 66 chapter. There's going to be a new heaven and a new earth created. So the heaven that we are under now is under Adam's heaven. But 2 Peter 3:8 is talking about a heaven and something that was destroyed before Adam and Eve. Jeremiah 4:23 say the same thing, that everything was destroyed. So who or what is this kingdom that Satan was ruling over? Was it a kingdom of angels? Who knows where the city of Atlantis that's been found? All of that talk. Satan was so wicked into this and creating underwater. The pyramids, y'all, they still trying to figure out the technology. If you can study the hieroglyphics, then it will tell you how the pyramids are built. But it can't. Because Satan gave that knowledge. He already had it. And it's the knowledge to try to live forever. And what they did then, angels were even mixing with animals. We're going to get into some Genesis 61 chapter where you see the son of Esau killed a half beast and half man. So no matter what they telling you that the angels can't do that, they don't have sex, the Bible ain't never said that. Never ever have it said the angels. It said they left their first estate, and their estate is to do a work of the Lord. Their nature, they changed their nature. Now, either that was two men that went into Sodom and Gomorrah because they wanted them men, didn't they? They ain't on his daughters, they wanted the men. They wanted the men. So how were they going to be able to do that to the men? And those men did miracles. Fire came down and they was blind. They pushed Lot back. They like, Lot, this wickedness is worse than we thought. They going after strange flesh now. The key word is strange flesh. When you look up in that concordance, strange, it's going to tell you different. Nowhere in the Bible when it tells us about dealing with flesh or marrying outside the race, it called the flesh strange. It may call the wife strange, meaning of another nation. And that's what strange means, something different. But when it says going after strange flesh, that you're not supposed to go after. If a human being lay down with a dog, what is he going after? What type of flesh is that? That's the different type of flesh that a man is supposed to be with. That's strange flesh. And that's what they did. They went after strange flesh. You would never see strange wives and strange flesh tied to the two. In Ezra, when they said they went after strange wives, Solomon loved many strange wives. They never say he loved strange flesh. Because that's why we started out 1 Corinthians 15 and tell you about the different types of flesh. They left that order. They couldn't be satisfied. Christ even say the same thing. If you dead in the resurrection, they asked about who husband this woman. She had 7. Which one of them gonna be? Which one of them wife she gonna be? She said, no marriage in heaven, not for the resurrected of the dead, but they shall be brothers and sisters. It don't mean that if you're being resurrected, so are they being resurrected without their private parts? If you coming up in the same body and Christ don't put his hand there, where we at?
Verse 17.
What it say?
That made the world as a wilderness.
That made it a what?
A wilderness. And destroyed the cities thereof. That opened not the house of his prison.
Right.
All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch. Okay, so
who was cast out or what king cast out? What was Satan locked up or what was he put into? Who is the beast? Revelation 9. Cast out of the what? The bottomless pit, right? So who is that? What man is that on earth? Cast out of the bottomless pit to bring war on the whole earth. So it's talking about then Satan is up to his same tricks. Satan is fired up because I was chief, I was over all of the ranking angels. How do you think he conned a third of them? And if we're talking about that this is talking about a man, 1/3 of men, or then that must mean that there's 2/3 of men that's doing righteous, right? See, if you mix the two, you won't be able to explain the other. But we're going to get into some Jasher chapter 2. And we finished that, bro? Yeah, that's cool on that. I just want to get to some Jasher 2 and then I want to get in that Jasher 61 while we're in there. And we're going to see what happens in these writings. Now, most people that say, well, we don't believe in Enoch and we don't believe in the book of Jasher, even though it said in the scriptures, then explain to us why you don't trust Jasher. At least explain it to us so we can put it down.
It's the wrong translation.
Well, so if we get the right translation, can we use it? It's either going to be yay or nay. No. Where we at?
You want Jasher 2?
Yeah, and I want that Josephus too, because he's going to get into what happened as well. See, if you use in one book, you have to use it. You can't cut back and say, well, I don't trust that part right there. Then you write the same way with people who with the Bible say, well, I don't trust the New Testament. If you don't trust it, put it down. You ain't gonna be able to convince me with what you don't trust. If somebody say, how you gonna say to a pimp, I trust you to get my daughter home safe? Where we at? I want to hit some of that book of Tobit too.
You want Jasher 2 or verse?
Yeah, I want where is it 18? I want to see where it says the sons of God.
Now let's talk about
Where it talk about something maybe.
it's talking about lament right there. I was skimming through it. I ain't see right here what it was talking about. Another chapter.
And maybe 4. I know Jubilees 5.
Yeah, we got Jubilees on deck over there.
Okay, go ahead with that then.
Jubilees 5.
Let me get that to you. Because it clearly talks about the sons of God.
And even if you got what's called a Tanakh, which is the Old Testament in Hebrew, that Genesis 6 says divine beings. When it says sons of God, and it's translated divine beings went into the daughters of men.
Right.
Bro got it right here. Jubilees 5.
What it say?
Verse 1. Jubilees chapter 5, verse 1. And it came to pass when the children of men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the angels of God the angels of God saw them on a certain year of the Jubilee, that they were beautiful to look upon. And they took themselves wives of all whom they chose, and they bare unto them sons, and they were giants.
And they were what?
Giants. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupt its way, alike men and cattle and beasts and birds, and everything that walks on the earth. All of them corrupted their ways and their orders, and they began to devour each other.
So they corrupted their way and their what?
Order.
See, when you corrupt your order, this is what you was created for. When you change this order and you look at a sheep like you would a woman, that's going to be a problem. Even if they go into a laboratory, I don't care what test they are doing, they're doing them on mice and what? So, y'all can Google all this right now, transhumanism.
Yes.
The same thing is happening, but it's happening through whiskey, it's happening through pharmaceutica. All of these things are allowing those spirits in to create. What you got back there, J.E.?
They also got the post-humanism, so we dealing with the transhumanism and post-humanism. The post-humanism is when they start putting chips and electronic parts in your body.
That's right.
So we've been taken out that way also, as well as DNA manipulation.
Hey, so the chip actually mutate your DNA?
Yeah, change your DNA.
Wow.
Any type of substance you put in your body is supposed to change your DNA.
That's why you're on, I don't care what transplant you get, you're on medicine for the rest of your life. Because what they're doing is they're putting artificial with the creation of God. And what they're doing is looking for eternal life. If we can find that link that connects the two,
Yeah, that's what they do.
then we'll live forever and the judgment won't matter. Y'all thinking that they right now allowing same-sex marriage in every state. Bestiality is next. It's already on the books.
It's supposed to be okay. I read something running around in China.
In China, I don't even doubt it. Well, Manitoba.
Yeah, they got they got a place called Plum Island. You can look up. It's started by a guy named Eric Traub, a Nazi scientist, where they actually making mutants and half man, half beast or whatnot. Just look it up. It's called Plum Island. Man, you just look that up. It'll blow your mind. That's what they do.
P-L-U-M?
Huh?
P-L-U-M?
Yeah, Plum Island.
There's another spot out there called Mako Island where they call it these so-called mermaids, half man, half fish.
Y'all got Jasper 61, give me that then. I'm gonna write with Zephyr. Did y'all get the one where
He got Jubilee's fire over here. You know that?
you done with that?
How far do you want to go there?
That's what I want Enoch 6 too. Give me that.
I want to put in that.
Yeah.
So you got a question?
Go ahead.
Does that mean if you get a heart transplant, is that the same thing for rubber cell?
There were two different types of transplants. The OFID chip is like a level 1 to a level 2 transplant. It's something totally different. Got to do buying, selling, storing medical records, mind control, all that. So you got some people got pacemakers in their chest.
We talking about PA part.
Yeah, you got something.
Another thing too, in the Obamacare, they got legislation written in there saying that you won't have to get an implantable device implanted in your body.
Class 2 medical device.
Implantable device implanted in your body.
Yeah.
In the Obamacare.
It's in Class 2, Section B, Paragraph 1, page 1001 through 1008. But they're calling it a Class 2 medical device that's implanted.
No, we ain't got long, about 15 more minutes, y'all.
All right, this is the book of Enoch, chapter 6, verse 1.
What it say?
And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied in those days, were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels,
And the who?
and the angels,
Right.
the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after
The
them.
children of the who?
Of the heavens.
So when we get into these New Testament scriptures, we'll be called the children of God or the children of heaven, but you're going to be transformed. That's why we first made sure we go to 1 Corinthians 15 to explain the difference in all the different bodies, so you understand what happens when you resurrect. You know where you're going to be. Either it's going to be eternal damnation or it's going to be righteousness in a kingdom. Then you can be called the children of God. Right now, y'all, we the sons of Jacob. Plain and simple. Go ahead.
It says, verse 2 again, and the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and get us children. And Samazah, who was the leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared in the summit of Mount Hermon.
See, Mount Hermon today is when you're watching any movies and you see Paramount Pictures. When you see that mountain and the stars circle Paramount and land on it, that's Mount Hermon.
And that's where the Greeks get their mythology from.
Absolutely.
See, all they guys met up on Mount Olympus. Zeus and all that. You feel me? It's the same story, just with each culture changes names. You know what I'm saying? But all them gods that he worshiped, Poseidon, Jupiter, all them little cats, Apollos, all them were fallen angels back in Genesis.
And they call it the Titans.
Yeah, the Titans, they're gods, you feel me? That's the same thing, just changes names from culture to culture.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But notice it's the same type of thing. They meet up on the mount, and they discuss the affairs of mankind, and they go and do their thing, and then they're worshipped in the earth. And it's famous meaning. You know what I'm saying? So you look at it as a myth, but it actually happened. It's just when it gets to the Greek rulership, now there's Zeus, you feel me, and whoever instead of Sam Johnson, like he just said. You feel me? It's changing names, but it's the same thing. Those are fallen angels that rebelled against the Lord. That's what happened.
And y'all, when they leave that earthly plane and they come down here, because you have to understand what they knew that was already in the writing. Christ was going to leave that earthly plane. And he was going to be born of a virgin woman, but not with man's DNA. If he was born with man's DNA, then he was born a blemished lamb. Look, the whole story, no matter how you slice it, the difference between what we believe, if Christ is his natural, if the Father is his natural father, or Joseph is his natural father, the deal is, what was the discussion or the conversation with Gabriel the angel? What was on Joseph's mind? What was the discussion? Were they having a spiritual Maury Povich at that time? Because Joseph was thinking, that ain't my baby. Now, I don't care how they twist it and say, well, he didn't know her no more. Well, if she pregnant and he fighting against the birth of the baby and saying it ain't mine, an angel has possessed, don't worry about it, it's the child of the Holy Spirit. He was going to put away. Then that means you agreeing that Christ was born. Joseph jumped the gun. I can't wait, young virgin. I just can't wait. And then you're going to put her away privately, and you say the Messiah coming from this union. That makes him what we call a bastard. So how can an unblemished lamb be brought into the world as a bastard? A bastard couldn't even be a priest in the order of Aaron.
Exactly. Right.
Let alone, you could even have a flat nose or a crooked foot. Where we at, y'all? We got about 10 minutes. Where we at?
Still in verse 6.
Read that.
It says that they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared and on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it.
Look, if he's a copycat, Christ came down on Mount Sinai. He's coming back to the mountain of Zion, Mount of Olives. So if Satan is imitating, he's going to come down on his mountain because he wants you to think that this is me. This is your God coming back. But he's coming back with wickedness. And he can't get a host body. So what does he do? He gets into animals or he gets into men, because this the deal. When you continue to read in Enoch, it'll tell you that those giants were killed in the flood. But because they're preternatural, they're half human and half supernatural, which makes preternatural. Their flesh decays, the natural decays, but that spirit of the supernatural, it says that now in Enoch chapter 14, those are what we call evil spirits. So the Lord used those evil spirits for men who won't do right. He sent that same evil spirit to Saul. That same evil spirit had Saul trying to kill David. And David had to play music to drive it away. Look, if you in a bad mood, what do they play for you? Music. If the baby you done changed and gave her milk and they still hollering, what you put on? Or what you try to do to stop that whining and hooping and hollering? Some music. La la la, baby, up in the treetop. They'll holler even more. They'll holler even more. But try this. Try this right here. Try this. Sing this in their ear. Yahshua. What? Try it and sing. if that song quiets him down. But that evil spirit that went was in Saul was an evil spirit. Now we still got Satan and his crew on earth, which are demons and devils. What you got, man?
Y'all write this down. It's in the Apocrypha, Ecclesiastes 39, about the spirits that he's talking about. 39 verse 28. Ecclesiastes 39 verse 28. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. Fire and hail, and famine, and death. All these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction.
See, so when it sounds like it's created, you like think that was at the beginning. Well, who's the father of all murder and lies?
The enemy.
Satan, right? So if he's the father of all of that, then he turned to sin. So he couldn't have been created wicked, but when you create free will, wickedness is created too, because if a man be righteous his whole life, he's in the kingdom. But if he turned to wickedness, what happened? His righteousness is gone. So breaking the law creates wickedness. Just like the absence of heat create what? So, y'all, we have to understand when he's saying I create these things, because the whole measure was if you turn from it, it's going to create a different situation. Look, if we take a 9mm and go into the bank, what is our status going to change from to? Right. So you're going to turn, you're going to make your situation worse than it is already. What you got, brother?
I was asking, what was that? They was asking what the
Sirach 39. Sirach 39 verse 28.
Go ahead and read that again, man.
Down to the end. They say, read it again, verse 28. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. Fire and hail, and famine, and death. All these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. They shall rejoice in his commandment, and they shall be ready upon earth when need is. And when their time is come, they shall not transgress his word. Therefore, from the beginning I was resolved, and thought upon these things, and have left them in writing. All the works of the Lord are good.
All of they are what? Good. So when you say the Lord create evil, how can you get the same thing? Wouldn't that be an oxymoron? It says all his works are good.
Go ahead. You evil was coming if you chose to do evil.
Right.
All the works of the Lord are good, and he will give every needful thing in due season, so that a man cannot say, this is worse than that. One time they shall all be well approved. And therefore praise ye the Lord with the whole heart and mouth, and bless the name of the Lord. That's it.
So y'all, we can get into some Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews. You'll see that also that where he talks about the giants in book 1. Chapter 3. We ain't going to go through it right now. Y'all write that down and check that out. Also check out in the book of Jasher. It's got to be in there. I gave my book of Jasher to somebody. In Mark. And where it speaks of the sons of God. It's right in the early chapters. I had 2 and 18 down, but...
Yeah, that ain't, you know, I look at 4 and 18 too.
4 and 18.
Judges and rulers, but
Right.
it's the same thing the following did. And that's Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 1. What is that? Book 1?
Yeah.
Book 1.
Book 3.
And then, so you got Josephus speaking about fallen angels. He was a historian.
Right.
And eyewitness to the fall of Jerusalem. You got him, you got Jubilees, you got the Spirit, you got like 4 or 5 different sources that talk about these fallen angels. But you got men today claiming it ain't never happened.
Right.
Feel me? So what qualifies these men above brothers that already been?
Right.
Feel me? Like how you out qualify Josephus and he straight lived 2,000 years ago, and eyewitness the fall of Jerusalem, and wrote the whole history of the Bible so the Romans could read our history. And how you out-qualify him? Or Jubilees, what we just read, or Joshua, any other scripts that talk about fallen angels, brother. Enoch, all that. You more qualified than these men. Enoch was translated. You feel me? He was taken from this realm into the spiritual realm. How you know more than